Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as DraftKings. Make sure you use promo code THPN when signing up with DraftKings for great opportunities and great odds. Again, promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, as well as DraftKings Daily Fantasy. Horwat, our Pens poll this week, I kind of just threw a bunch of crap at the wall to see what stuck, and we have ended up with probably one of our closest Pens poll in the history of us doing this segment. And the question was, which of these are you most looking forward to possibly happening during the 2021-22 season? Because a lot of this, other than really one thing, a lot of this is up in the air on whether or not it's going to happen. And the winner of that poll was Sam Poulin / Nathan Legare's debut. Either or. 28% voted for that. A full season of Kapanen got 27%. Also, happy belated 25th birthday to Kapanen, who had a birthday last Friday. So he got 27%. More P.O. Joseph, just down pat. We want more P.O. Joseph, whether that's 1 game or 30 games. 24% of our voters said that. And then in last place, Evgeny Malkin hitting his 1,000th game with 21%. So between first and fourth place, a 7% gap. Obviously, Evgeny Malkin at 940 games played right now, probably set to miss the beginning of the season, recovering from knee surgery, so he might not hit it this season. But if he does, it'll be something fun to watch.
It will be. That was my selection, and I totally forgot he was hurt when I selected it. So let's talk about it as if he's going to hit it, because we just saw how cool it was watching Crosby play his 1,000th game. Mm-hmm. Just adding to the joy of this whole thing, Malkin hitting it the next season. It would be very poetic if you think about it too, because I remember Crosby hitting his 1,000th point, and then I think it was the next season Malkin hit his 1,000th point. So why not do the same thing with each of their 1,000th games? I mean, it might be a Malkin second fiddle situation, but no, that's not necessarily it. He just started a year later. That's all. That's why. They're the same player. He just started a year later. So yeah, I obviously I'm looking forward to Malkin's 1,000th game. You really do hope it happens this year here on this team as well. Just saying. And I'm sure it will, though. But beyond that, if I had to pick a realistic choice, because I kind of forgot, yeah, I gotta go with the winner here, the Poulin Legare debut. We've been talking about these kids forever now, and it's finally their big time opportunity, maybe.
Yeah, it's the year that they're closest to getting the first year that there's really an actual chance. I know last year we mentioned that, hey, if they impress, they could get up there. I think a lot of that is also the fact that we haven't had prospects in a while to get excited about. So we're excited to see what these guys' payoff is. And it might happen this year. It might not, but it'll be the first year that we probably see them in Wilkes-Barre. So at least we'll get to watch them in a professional setting in the AHL. I am excited to see their debuts. Obviously, Nathan Legare a couple of years ago in the preseason having that 2-goal performance. A lot of people were excited about that. Sam Poulin, there's a lot to have been excited about him. I know a lot of people are saying he needs to work on his skating and work on his foot speed. So we'll see if he does that in the AHL or see if he's able to do that when he gets to the NHL. But when you talk about foot speed, I'm excited to see what Kapanen does with a full season. I mean, the guy was electric last year in a year where he had a leg injury, in a year where he had visa issues getting over, so he didn't really have a full training camp. Obviously, coming off of the COVID break is difficult as well. So I'm excited to see what Kapanen does with a full year, especially because he will probably be in the top 6 the entire year this year, whereas last year he did have time where he spent on the 4th line a couple games. He was on the 3rd line a couple games. He bounced between the 1st and the 2nd. So whenever Malkin is back from injury and Kapanen has a full camp and has a full 82, I'm excited to see what his numbers end up being. But I obviously am excited for Poulin Legare. I'm excited for more P.O. Joseph. That is almost a given that we're going to see more P.O. Joseph this year. And Evgeny Malkin, I don't think he's going to seem like a second fiddle celebration for 1,000. And I know you walked back on that comment, obviously. But I think the Penguins have done a really good job. I was there the day he scored his 1,000th game. They've done a really good job of making it seem like these two superstars are together and not one is better than the other. Obviously, Sidney Crosby's legacy is much more cemented than Evgeny Malkin's, but I don't think it's that further behind. I think Evgeny Malkin's legacy is right there with Sidney Crosby's. And hopefully the end of his career continues to follow that trajectory and finishing in Pittsburgh. And hopefully, I'd love to see him get to 1,000 this year. That means we'd get at least 60 games of Evgeny Malkin, only missing 22. That gives you about the first month of leeway to miss with that MCL and ACL recovery. Is he going to do it? I'm not sure. Somebody actually commented on the Pens poll and said that this is going to be his last season because he's retiring afterwards. I don't think that's the case. I haven't heard anything. If that person that commented that has, definitely DM us. I'd love to hear more about that story, but I don't think that's the case. I haven't certainly seen anything, and I'm sure Evgeny Malkin wants to get to the 1,000 game mark. I'm sure that's something on his mind.
Yeah.
Maybe not the front of his mind, probably in the back of his mind, but that's a goal that he probably wants to achieve.
I'm sure it is. That's especially with how much of a hand he kind of played in Crosby's 1,000th game. I'm sure he kind of wants the same sort of sentiment, and just that's a hell of an achievement, no matter what. It's one of those goals you set for yourself when you start in the NHL. You play your first game and you think, all right, now let's, keep grinding. Let's hit that 1,000 marker. Obviously it goes, let's hit 2, 3, 100, then it rises from there. But eventually you get to the point of, I'm going to be here pretty consistently. I got my big, long contract. I'm getting paid. Let's stay healthy. Let's hit 1,000, because it's one of those, it's just one of those achievements. It's one of those NHL achievements that are always discussed. It's always this player played 1,000 games. You're put on a list. You're kind of remembered forever in that sort of vein, and you just keep going from there.
Yeah, out of curiosity, I did look up to see where Chris Letang was as far as games played. He has currently played 863, so a little less of an opportunity for him to get there. But if he plays full seasons and stays healthy, knock on wood, then there's a chance he could get there in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's one of those things about great players, too, is if you think about it, how many of them really – a lot of them played 1,000 games, but how many of them didn't? Like, how many of the best players of all time didn't play 1,000 games? I don't think Bobby Orr did.
I'll look that up, but obviously the big one that we know is Mario Lemieux did not play 1,000 games.
Yep, I think that was the obvious one. I don't think Bobby Orr did, just because he only played 10 years or 11 years or something like that. Mike Bossy, I know, is one that really only played 10 seasons and only hit 752 games. You got that Bobby Orr number?
Yeah, Bobby Orr played for 12 years and only played in 657 games.
That dude's knees are ruined. He's one of the best players of all time. It's a shame he couldn't play any longer. But no, some of the best players of all time never touched 1,000. So you just kind of add to a legacy by hitting 1,000. Yeah,
for every Jaromir Jagr, there is a Bobby Orr.
Yep.
Where you don't know how long you're going to get these star players, so you better enjoy watching them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to like roll through names. Eric Lindros, I know, battled injuries, 760. So, you mentioned it for every, let's change it up for every Patrick Marleau, because he set the record this past year, and that's important. There is an Eric Lindros. There is a Bobby Orr. There's, longevity is a great thing in the game, but some of the best, I mean, it's a brutal game. Some of the best were just attacked on all fronts,
Yeah, but that's going to do it for this episode of The Tip of the Iceberg. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Tip of the Iceberg. Like we mentioned earlier, we will have Jesse Marshall coming on probably later this week, so that'll be a great interview. Always fun getting to catch up with our fellow former Pioneer. But that's going to do it for this episode of The Tip of the Iceberg. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on Thursday.